Alright, we continue then with this class. We'll make the hand of our character based on these spheres. We'll basically finish with the base mesh. It's maybe easier here, since there are more knuckles, and some more bones, but this is the basic structure which lets us work with ease on the sculpting. So let's create using Q as this sphere for the thumb finger. Next, we'll create, please take into account the size. Later we'll modify it. Let's create it just like that. Trying to leave these rings around. Then I'll create the second sphere. Third sphere for the middle finger. It would be 5 in total. And at the end, we'll create over here the little finger. Then we can just move it. In order to move these objects, perhaps we'll get some issues due to the size. I've got for these controllers which handles the draw size. At this instant, we'll need it to be small. I'll set it big in order to show you the problem I'm talking about. Notice when I move it, it's got a big influence area. So when I move this one, it affects this one. So what I do is to decrease this draw size, so the influence area affects specifically this sphere. I'll scale it a bit. The space for the little finger, because it's kind of misplaced over here. I think they are good enough now, more or less centered. Now what I'll do is to visualize how the polygons look. It generates kind of an odd mesh, but for the time being, the topology of the mesh is not that important. I'll start creating over here. I can use a technique here which creates a sphere like the base sphere by pressing Shift. Hold on, Control Z. This one has got like a bone or something, I'm not sure. Okay. Again? It seems I'm clicking by mistake with the tablet. Alright. Create an extra knuckle. In this case, for instance, works perfectly. We simply next move then. Let's see. What I'm doing is just locating the fingers on a position accordingly to a hand. In this case, you can use a visual reference. Later on, we'll be having a look at realistic hands and get this closer to a realistic human being and make it look like a superhero character. In this case, like the Titan, which is the biggest character we'll build. We've got then basically the first phalanges. Let's go ahead and create the rest. So we do the same, drag and press Shift, and we simply move them now. I try to locate them closer to how the fingers should be, roughly. Over here for the bones, it's got 2, right? 2 phalanges. For the others, they've got actually 3. So let's generate that last bone. And I'll place them there. Well, I'm getting kind of theorist, but I want them to be located around where they are supposed to. And I'll scale over here a little the size of these bones, which are looking kind of odd. Alright, so we've basically got a character already. which works for what we need. At this point, we finish the mesh of the character. On the next class, what we'll do is to create the blueprints. Some blueprints where we'll place some reference images of the character we'll create, in this case the Batman fan art. We'll load the first one, then the second one, we adjust them, and then we proceed to modify this mesh accordingly to the proportions given from the images and start sculpting. See you on the next class.